You know this man because he joins us each and every Wednesday at this time to talk baseball and beer. He is Jaffe from Fangraphs.com, who you can follow on Twitter at J_Jaffe. And man, the World Series edition of our weekly conversations. Good to have you back, and we're underway already. A game in the books, and we talked about it earlier, Jay. Good news and bad news if you're a Braves fan. Good news, you got to the Astros. You won game one on the road. Bad news, obviously, you lose your A's for the rest of the series into spring training next year, and that's Charlie Morton.
Yeah, that was a really tough blow, losing Morton. I mean, he has become one of the best big game pitchers around. He was huge for Houston in 2017. He was big for Tampa Bay last year. I think he's somebody they're going to miss. I mean, he probably would have started game 5 and come out of the bullpen potentially if there was a game 7 over the course of this series. So losing him is a not insignificant blow to them. I mean, he really gutted it out there before they realized that he'd actually fractured his fibula with that those strikeouts and that 96-mile-an-hour pitch. But boy, that just that's a stinging blow, and it almost outweighs the cost. I mean, the whatever euphoria there is to be had over winning the first game.
Sure. I mean, the best thing will be if the Braves can figure out a way to win the rest of the series without him. And obviously, then you go back and look at this and realize, well, you'll have Morton healthy for 2022. But the fact that he continued pitching on with the injured and the broken fibula is amazing to me. Finished the second inning, even into the third, and then he finally gave way. That's as gutsy as it gets. And give credit to A.J. Minter for the multiple innings of pitching terrific relief yesterday for Atlanta.
Yeah, the Braves bullpen has come up big throughout the postseason, and particularly their lefties, Minter and Tyler Matzek have both been just absolutely huge for them. Minter getting 8 outs last night? I mean, just phenomenal. That I think that's as far as he's ever gone in a game, at least in relief in the majors, and big time work.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, there's so much left to go in this series, and you just look at how the teams were able to get there with the Astros knocking the Red Sox out, and obviously the Dodgers season coming to a close thanks to what the Braves were able to do to them. Look, when the Dodgers got Trevor Bauer, we were talking about a historic pitching rotation that had a chance to be the greatest of all time. And then we obviously had no idea what would happen with Bauer during the season, not to mention injuries for Kershaw, Tommy John for Dustin May, and suddenly this great rotation was kind of left, I don't want to say in shambles, but Jay, they were limping into the postseason was the best way to put it for Dodger fans.
Yeah, well, I mean, they actually upgraded on Bauer by getting Max Scherzer at the trade deadline, and he pitched even better than any of them. But he kind of tired out down the stretch. Yeah. His last 2 regular season starts and all but one of his postseason appearances, he really showed signs of fatigue, and ultimately he came up with what he called a dead arm, which is pretty common muscle fatigue. I go back to the fact that there were so many pitchers who had year-over-year innings increases of well over 100 innings. I think Walker Buehler had the largest, if you include his postseason, something like 180 more innings or something on that order relative to last year, or 160 more innings relative to last year once you factor in the postseason innings. And these guys are just gassed, and I don't think anybody was really knew what to expect. We've seen heightened injury rates for pitchers. I think up 44% relative to 2019. I can't blame these guys for being out of gas. It's just for the Dodgers, it happened at the wrong time. The relievers they brought in, the starters that they squeezed into unfamiliar roles just couldn't execute in the same way that the Braves pitchers did, and that's one reason why the Braves moved on. The Braves pitchers did a great job of shutting down the Dodger hitters in a lot of key situations as well. That's the other reason.
I don't know the number on this yet. Maybe you do. But how many World Series winners historically have we had that were under 500 at the All-Star break?
Oh, it's a pretty small number. There was a stat. Somebody posted from Baseball Reference posted a stat on Twitter, and it was there was incorrect because it included the 1914 Miracle Braves, who before there was an actual All-Star game, but there were only a few. So I think we're talking like maybe 3 or 4.
Wow,
It's very uncommon, and the Braves were below 500 even at the trade deadline. They were 51 and 53, so it lasted even longer for them.
It's amazing, but I guess it goes to show you that if you heat up at the right time and you go into the playoffs playing your best baseball of the season, that it can work for you. And I know we also looked at St. Louis's hot streak and said that in a 1-game wild card, that kind of goes against them. But at least as far as the Braves go, hey, they've been playing terrific ball, really in September and now into October. You look at what they're able to do, and it's fun to watch a team peaking like this.
Yeah, they played it. I think it was 106 win pace from the end of July onward. So it wasn't just a hot September. It was a hot few months, and it was a substantially different team than the one they left the gate with. Yes, losing Ronald Acuna Jr. was a huge blow, and I don't think many teams could withstand that. But they really, with Marcell Ozuna, his domestic violence suspension, Ozuna was playing so badly that it was actually an upgrade just getting Jock Peterson in there in right field, and those outfielders really did produce well. The new outfield with Adam Duvall and Eddie Rosario in September once they got him, and so this was a bit of a different team by the time they got to the postseason, and they were healthier than the Dodgers.
You're right. You add Jorge Soler to that group, and again,
Soler was the other one I was talking about. Yeah.
They kept piecing it together, but it's a great point you bring up. Rosario was amazing in the Dodgers series, about as hot as anybody can be. And you know what? Like you said, the bats come alive, the pitching's good, and now here they are, 1 game up on the Astros in the World Series. You wrote about Dusty Baker yesterday at Fangraphs.com, and if there's one reason I want to see the Astros win this year, it's because of Dusty, somebody who I've always admired. He's always been one of those guys that's never had that elusive World Series ring as a manager, but he's been close a few times, and seems always to be one of the good guys of the game. And probably, given the Astros where they were a few years ago and how much hate there was towards them, probably one of the few guys that could go into that spot, handle it, keep the team together, and ultimately bring them to where they are right now, which is in the World Series.
Yeah, hiring him was an inspired choice because he has a way of drawing the attention towards him away from his players in the manner, the tradition of the best managers. They'll keep you from getting on the players too much when they're going bad, and shine a light right back on them when things are going good. And he's a popular guy, and I think that kind of disarmed a lot of the Astros critics. And I think it's still, there are a lot of reasons to be upset that the Astros did not get what they might have gotten had in a more just world, due to the complexities of handing out punishment under the collective bargaining agreement. But yes, Baker is a very accomplished manager. He's gotten kind of a raw deal at some spots, so for him, this is a bit of a chance for redemption. I mean, he won 95 and 97 games in those 2 years in Washington, and first round exits led to his departure. His contract wasn't renewed. Even now, he's not working with a contract. It's kind of strange, but you hope that he gets to do whatever he wants to on his own terms. He's certainly earned the chance to come back for another year if that's what he wants. A World Series for him, as I wrote, would probably be the capstone of a Hall of Fame career. I think even if you look at without the World Series in context, though he has just the 2 pennants, he's got a lot of other things going for them with the 10 playoff appearances that make him a solid candidate for the Hall.
Even though that's the case, you kind of measured his numbers historically against some of his peers. You showed us what the average looks like in a lot of the Hall of Fame categories as a manager, and he comes up a little short. So maybe for Dusty Baker's chances at Cooperstown, this World Series could mean everything for him in terms of trying to get into to the Hall here someday.
Yeah, he stacks up more favorably among the managers that haven't really had a full chance to be digested by the Hall. I mean, I think that someday, we'll see guys like Bruce Bochy and Joe Madden and maybe Mike Scioscia, Lou Piniella in there. And when you compare them to them, it makes more sense. I mean, going up against John McGraw and Connie Mack, nobody's, not many managers can stack up to them. And likewise, Tony La Russa. But the rest of them, he's right. He's got some assets, and some credentials that are right there with them. Longevity is impressive. 11th most games managed. I mean, that speaks well of just how respected he is within the game.
We're back right now with Jay Jaffe from Fangraphs.com. You can check out his story on Dusty Baker. He also wrote about the Negro Leagues and the latest involvement with Negro League players being considered for the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. That's all up. You mentioned Rosario, the Braves, here a couple of minutes ago about key additions. You've got a big feature on him coming up later on.
Yeah, looking at what it is that he's been doing that's been making him so hot. One of the things he's had a great 2-strike approach pretty much since coming over to Atlanta. Cut down his strikeouts, good contact rate, doing a lot of damage with 2 strikes. And I know that had to frustrate the heck out of the Dodger pitchers because, they thought they'd put him away, and he hung in there for some really, really tough at bats.
Absolutely. So that's all coming up at Fangraphs.com with Jay Jaffe. Hey, I did see the commissioner talk about the clock for pitchers. You have to get in the box in a certain amount of time. Pitchers have to be trying to speed the game up a little bit. Do you like where baseball is as far as implementing that to try and speed it up? Because if you look at the World Series yesterday, Jay, that game went forever. For a game that should have been about 3 hours, it seemed like that game just dragged on and on.
Yeah, that game was a slog. The whole postseason has been a slog. We've had way too many 4-hour games. Mm-hmm. So much dead time. It's been rough. Extra relievers, things like that. A lot of scoring. So it's just they've dragged. I think we need a pitch clock. They experimented with it in low minors and really positive results. Cut the game times down to about 2 hours 45 minutes. With also just a very crisp rhythm of play. And I think that was what observers reported. So I would like to see this. I know that Manfred can unilaterally impose this. I think obviously it probably gets a better buy-in if it's part of the negotiations. But this has been on the horizon for a while. I think it's inevitable. When you look at the possibility that veterans would be resistant to it, most of them have dealt with a pitch clock at some form or another coming up through the minor leagues now, and so this is not that foreign an addition. What was your next question?
Well, we talked about, now I was going to ask you, speaking of the off season, I mean, baseball is the big labor negotiations are going to be coming up after the World Series. Yeah. And you kind of wonder, do you think, just gut feeling, that we'll have a spring training starting in February with pitchers and catchers and then games in March, or could this drag on and get ugly, Jay?
Well, I think it's very possible that we could see a lockout after if there's no deal in place on December 1st, when the current CBA expires. Seems to be a lot of concern within the industry about that happening, in which case the winter meetings would almost certainly be canceled. There's a growing feeling about that possibility within the industry. But now, a report that came out yesterday with Manfred and Clark both speaking before Game 1 of the World Series, that Manfred at least expressed some optimism about getting an agreement. I'll believe it when I see it. I think, though, that the owners realize that any kind of long work stoppage would be financial suicide after no crowds last year, limited crowds this year. They need these ball games. They need the revenue. I suspect what we'll see, I think the most likely scenario is some kind of work stoppage that goes on through December and eventually puts the squeeze on free agents to make up their minds quickly, squeezes a lot of the middle market guys into taking deals quickly so they can get to camps and things like that. I don't, maybe it'll set the regular season back a bit if camps open late, but I don't think the owners have an appetite for a long outage. I could be wrong, but that's the sense I get from what I'm hearing.
Before we get to your beer pick of the week, let's get back to the series for a minute. What did you predict as far as a winner and how many games?
I was rooting for the Meteor. No, I did not actually offer an official prediction. I mean, my official prediction was that the Rays and Brewers would be playing, and that the Rays would beat the Brewers, and we're a few missed series past that. So I don't know. I think Houston is the stronger team. I would not be surprised if they prevail, even down 1-0. But Atlanta has been exceptionally tough, obviously, since over the latter third of the regular season and on. So, if they win, they will have done impressive work,
especially without Morton now for the remainder of the series.
Yeah, it's still this makes it harder. This probably goes a long way towards almost negating the 1-game advantage.
Wrap it up. Beer pick of the week. What would you like to profile this week, Jay?
Okay, this one was the Oxbow Grand Royal. It's a Helles lager. I'll just put it up on screen here. I don't have the can with me here, but it's a Munich-style pale lager brewed with European malts and noble hops. I'm a really big fan of their Lupolo Pilsner. It's one of my best, one of my favorite beers to drink with spicy food. This was maybe not quite as good, but pretty close. Nice crisp beer with kind of a biscuity malt finish, a little bit of sweetness there, a little bit of grassiness in the middle. Just a real quenching beer.
Do you know where the brewery is out of?
It's up in Maine somewhere, Newcastle, Maine.
Okay. Now your advice
to people.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was thinking they do really good stuff. Everything I've had from there is good.
This is interesting now. Your advice to people, because we love spicy food here in El Paso. You've been here, you've seen it, you've tasted it. If you're eating something spicy, your beer of choice is a Pilsner, something that's crisp, smooth, easy to go down with really spicy food.
Yeah, it's just I think the notes work well. A little bit of sweetness there, but mostly just a quencher and something that if you have 2 of them with your meal, you're not going to be on the floor passed out.
I got you. I just didn't know if you would ever try to go after like a habanero beer with spicy food and really just try to up it a notch or two and make your beverage even hotter than your dinner.
No,
Right.
Not likely.
Good job, Jay. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for the time as always.
All right. Sounds great, Steve. Thanks.